You may have noticed as we journey from Easter to Pentecost that we don't have an Old Testament reading. Rather, we have a reading from Acts in the place of the Old Testament reading. And in these readings, we're given a picture, a reminder of the life of the early church as it starts to move, as it starts to sort of firstly more clearly define and understand itself post-resurrection. But also we get this picture of the church moving from doubt and toward a growing confidence, which we see reaches its pinnacle at Pentecost, at the outpouring of the Spirit. But I wonder if you've noticed over this same time with the lectionary readings that our epistle comes from that tiny little letter 1 John. And as we follow those readings, we see how John writes to encourage those small and emerging groups of Christians scattered across Asia Minor who are struggling to come to terms with their faith in relation to their surroundings. And we might say, in sort of our modern terminology, that John is addressing sort of challenges of discipleship. And we see how, in that reading from 1 John from this morning, we see how John seeks to communicate, and he does this through the breadth of that first letter. But here we see it clearly, communicates his understanding of love, specifically Christ's love for us. And then wrapped around that, John then says how we, I guess too, in light of this, should live. I wonder, as we look at ourselves here in this place, as we consider the challenges to discipleship that we face today, the temptation to remain silent, the willingness to just accept society's view of the church as insignificant and where we sit within that. I wonder if, as we face some of those challenges to discipleship today, I wonder if John was to write this letter to us, I wonder what it might look like. Dear St. Mary's, what is love? Do you ever find yourself asking that very question? Do you ever feel that the word has been emptied of its value? I love you, we say, or hear said. I love your outfit. I love that last holiday. But what does it mean? Does it mean anything? Is it simply an expression of like rather than dislike? Love you. But can you remember how Jesus described and defined love? It certainly was not soppy or sentimental or empty. You might remember Jesus, in demonstrating his love for us, not only washed disciples' feet, but he actually went as far as laying down his life for you and for me. And he said, "A new commandment I give you." Can you remember it?
Love one another.
Perfect. As
I have loved you.
Perfect. Love one another as I have loved you. Wow. That means, technically, not just serving, but dying. Sounds a bit harsh, I hear you say. I know that's a challenge for you. It's also a challenge for me. For in all honesty, how willing are we to really lay down our lives for one another? I know you're thinking, as you look around at each other, you're probably thinking, I might help you out if you ask, but dying for you? No way. But is this love? Just helping out now and again? Dear St. Mary's, what does your love for one another look like? Jesus didn't put himself first. He put you first. And he calls you to do the same for one another. Yet if our life is full of this world's stuff, where is the room for love? If your focus is upon yourselves first, how will you ever truly see the needs of those sitting next to you? I write to remind you that Jesus shows us that real love, genuine love, is not simply a feeling or an expression of like. No. Real love is only truly evident in our actions. Which raises the question, is it possible to really love without risk and without sacrifice? I know it's easy to love and allow ourselves to be loved as long as it doesn't hurt. And yet it's true that love is never really love unless it holds the potential of our being hurt. Dear St. Mary's, you may never have to die for someone else, but to love others truly asks that you become willing to lay down your needs and your desires for someone else. And this is where love moves from just being words, empty sentiment, and becomes action, sometimes costly, always selfless. So you see, love is not easy. It calls for you to have dedication and commitment. It asks you to be vulnerable, honest, and aware. Jesus asks us to search our hearts, to be honest with ourselves. For as we're honest with ourselves, so we're able to be confident before God. And in this confidence, to know that God is not only for us, not only that he loves us, but that he lives in us. Wow. How often do you think of that? And so I pray that you might see the question is not so much what is love, but who is love? And we see that ultimately the answer is God. We are able to love one another because God loves us. And whenever you share communion, whenever you receive bread and wine, so you see the beautiful, the powerful illustration of God's love. A life given, sins forgiven, new life promised, relationship, belonging, purpose. St. Mary's, to love one another, to allow ourselves to be loved, is not easy. And yet, as you continue to explore together what true love is, may you more willingly love others, not just with words, but with action and truth. Best regards, John.